It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Arkansas losing the game to Texas A&M this past weekend, and a big one against Auburn, which has lost 4 in a row, 4 close games by the Auburn Tigers. It's Hugh Freeze's job on the line, really. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk with Connor Goodson, a little bit of basketball discussion, talk about some coaching search topics, and we'll get into the Auburn game as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
Okay, a couple of pertinent news items. Arkansas and Mississippi State will kick off at 3 p.m. That's in 12 days. It will be televised by the SEC Network. That's Saturday, November 1st in Razorback Stadium. It's a big game also, just as big as this Auburn game. But Auburn is the next one. Arkansas basketball in action on Friday, October 24th in Bud Walton Arena, playing Cincinnati, 7 o'clock. That is the first of 2 exhibition games. You've got this one on Friday, October 24th. And then on October 27th, Monday, you've got the St. Jude Tip-Off Classic presented by Bad Boy Mowers at Memphis. That's in the FedEx Forum at 8 o'clock. All right, let's take a quick look back at this game. Arkansas losing 45-42. I think what's one of the things that really jump out from going back and watching the game, by the way, we talked to Bobby Petrino. We'll play a little clip of him here in just a little bit. But when I asked Bobby Petrino today, I think it was the first or second, I think it was the first question I asked, because I usually lead off with asking Sam Pittman the same question. What did you notice when you went back on film that maybe you didn't see on game day? Well, I'm not really sure there was anything I didn't see. That was his response, basically. Bobby Petrino's got a lot of confidence. He answers questions very succinctly and directly. He just has that head coach presence. I got to say, I get a lot of people in the comments saying Bobby Petrino for the next coach. I get a lot of it. I think there are some people that are adamantly against it, but I think there are way more people that would either be fine with it or want that to happen, want him to be the head coach. We're going to get into that discussion a little bit when we talk about some of the stuff that's gone on around other football programs and the firings and stuff. But what stood out to me about this game, I want to get to that first. 3:32 left in the first half, and Arkansas is down 21-6. Taylon Green just got knocked out of the game, and Arkansas has to score a touchdown to stay in the game, basically, at this point. You cannot go into halftime down 21-6 or even worse. They go down and score again. There's 3:32 left. Taylon Green's warming up on the sidelines. I'm like, looks like Taylon Green's going back in. I tweeted out. I mentioned this in the walk and talk. People's response was, doesn't matter. It's over. Game is over. And they go in there, and the quarterback that just got knocked out of the game and a team that, could have laid down at that point, he has a couple of big runs. Next thing you know, it's 21-13. Defense gets a stop, 52 seconds left. Washington, who had just gotten hurt on the previous series, Mike Washington, has a huge run. 2 seconds left, he finds Omega Blake for a touchdown. Hogs going to half 21-20. There have been a lot of people that say why didn't you go for 2 there? I was in a discussion with somebody on the message board. We're just talking back and forth about it. My opinion is always like in the second quarter, and Petrino kind of alluded to this too in his press conference on Monday, but in the second quarter, why are you trying to predict what the score of the game is going to be? Because, things can work out when you're talking about dealing with 3 points or 4 points. Things can come down to field goals. They kick a field goal. You're down 4, they kick a field goal, then it's a 7-point game. You know what I mean? Like, don't try to predict what the score is going to be. When he went for 2, it was the appropriate time. You're getting a little bit closer. How things could work out that way. So it made sense when he did it. But they go into halftime down 21-20. I think if they had not scored those 2 touchdowns, you would have seen a lot of people empty out, maybe miss a really good game. Student section stayed packed. There's a lot of Texas A&M fans in that crowd. And I think part of that too, like a lot of those people had bought tickets. They travel for the game, plan on buying tickets when a lot of them plan on buying tickets when they get there. But people who travel that far to go to the game aren't not going to go to the game because of weather. And I think you saw some Arkansas fans probably not go. But I thought it was a fantastic crowd. I was a little worried early on because it wasn't full. As the game progressed, it's like, I don't know if people were just like, yeah, let's go on in, let's go to the game. Or maybe they're just waiting for the rain to completely stop. I don't know. But I thought it was a really great, really fun crowd, a lot of energy. And as Petrino said, the players definitely fed off of that. And I think it also speaks to how people feel about Bobby Petrino, not just the opponent, but like people felt like Arkansas had a chance to win. Had things continued the way they were, and you lose it at Tennessee and you come back home, I don't know that you would have had the same crowd show up in the rain for Sam Pittman against the number 4 ranked team in the country like they did for Bobby Petrino. I think it says a lot about what people think about him and Arkansas's chances to win. You kept feeling like throughout the whole game, Arkansas has got to catch a break. They got to catch a break here. And it just never came. There were some mistakes, obviously. The 4th and 1, it was open to Rohan Jones. You would have liked to seen Arkansas get that stop on that 4th down at midfield where Texas A&M went for it. James Singletary was right there. He's got to launch into that guy, and he just kind of caught him. Ends up getting hurt on the play, actually. Things like that got to go a little bit differently. You look down there on that defensive line, and, man, it's just like, you've got nothing against Caleb James or Frank Mulipola or Kevin Otis, but, those guys are not guys that should be playing right now in those key moments down at the goal line and stuff, but you just don't have any choice but to play them. And that's going to plague Arkansas all year. Now, I asked Bobby Petrino on Monday today. I asked him about David Oki and about Danny Saili. He said they were in team stretch. We'll find out Wednesday if they're on the injury report or not. They're going to be on there in some capacity, I would assume. But if they can get Danny Saili back, that would be really big, as well as Oki for this one, because they're so thin. And there are problems in the secondary. The linebackers haven't been as good as we had hoped, but it all starts up front. And, some of the things that they're having to do up front, some of the personnel that they needed to use, it's tough. It's tough to play good defense when you don't have any depth on the defensive line, especially on the interior, and that's what they're dealing with. So, timeouts at the end. One of the points I make about Bobby Petrino is he is not going to put you in a situation where he makes boneheaded decisions that cost you games. I can never remember in any time he was at Arkansas where he did something and I was like, man, that was really stupid. They're going to end up losing because of that. That's not how Arkansas lost games under him. They lost games because, they were either just beaten by a better team or just, outplayed in some kind of category, or the time, ran out of time, basically. It was never just like, man, that was really boneheaded. What is he thinking? And the timeouts at the end of the game, like a lot of people, saying, should have started calling timeouts with 147. They ended up getting that penalty, 10-second runoff, all that kind of stuff after that. But this was after like the 18-yard sack against Taylor Green. But if you call timeout there, if you don't recover the onside kick, then the game is over. There's no way to win. So I know what he was doing. He was trying to save time. Then you end up getting to a situation where, okay, there is not going to be any time left if we don't start calling timeouts, and our only chance to win the game is to recover an onside kick at that point. Now, obviously, it would have been difficult to stop Texas A&M running the ball that late, but that was their option. So I understand why he wasn't calling timeouts, because I've seen a lot of people bring that up also. But I agree with what he was trying to do in terms of saving those timeouts so they don't recover the onside kick. then they have those 3 timeouts they can burn, and still, if they can get a stop somehow, they can, still go down a score. But we're talking about a game that was 10 points, not a game that was just one score or anything. So I want to know what people think in the comments, because a lot of people say, I've heard people say it would be lazy just to hire Bobby Petrino. I hear people say that he's the right guy, and I've heard people staunchly against it. But I do feel like I hear more people say that's the coach, that's our coach. When I post a video of Bobby Petrino on our YouTube channel, and people's replies, hire Bobby Petrino, get a defensive coordinator, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of support. I think he needs to win some games to solidify that, especially against, Auburn, Mississippi State, some of the teams that he's got coming up. LSU's not unbeatable. Taylon Green, to me, he's a better quarterback than – I think he's the best quarterback left on the schedule. I think he's the best quarterback left. Maybe Missouri. Yeah, so that's one advantage right there. But they're always going to struggle on the defensive line. That's always going to be a problem. When you look across college football right now, who's been fired? Billy Napier, Florida. That they're going to have a pretty high option there. James Franklin, fired at Penn State. They're going to be way up there. Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. I don't know if I would take the Oklahoma State job over the Arkansas job or UCLA job where Deshaun Foster was fired. Brent Pry was fired at Virginia Tech. Trent Bray at Oregon State, and Troy Taylor was fired at the beginning of before the season even started at Stanford for some non-football related stuff. So those are the ones that have been fired so far. If you look at the coaching hot seats out there, you still got Mike Norvell at Florida State, which there was some talk about support with him this morning or yesterday maybe. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Bill Belichick. I don't think you fire Bill Belichick just because, yeah, he may be doing a crappy job, but it's year one. And I always say, and especially with the calendar the way it used to be, year one is very difficult. But that Auburn job and that Florida State job both could absolutely come open. So could that Wisconsin job with Luke Fickell. So there are always going to be firings, and especially since things have changed with the calendar. I would say I don't think that Shane Beamer's getting fired, but he could be a guy to keep an eye on. Brian Kelly, you could be surprised there too. Mark Stoops, there's another one. So just a few things to keep an eye on there. Okay. We're going to play the Bobby Petrino clip. It's about 2:45 or so. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers. Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously crafted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience the undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. I was having a little bit of problem with fading there on the teleprompter. Walker Brothers, good people. I've known them for a number of years. You've got to check. If you come to Fayetteville or Northwest Arkansas, visit them in Fayetteville. But if you have the opportunity to visit that new store in Rogers, it's like going into a clubhouse or something where they sell men's clothing. Like, it's really cool. It's a really cool layout. So go check out our friends over at Walker Brothers, 2 locations in Northwest Arkansas. Okay, let's get to Bobby Petrino now. This is, again, it's not even 3 minutes long. It's just a couple of the best moments that I took out from today's press conference. If I loaded it, which I did not, apparently. So we're going to have to add the file. It's going to take a minute. My bad. Oh, the file's a bit large. That's why I want to load. Okay, I thought I added it, but I can add it right here.
What you need to do now is be a little bit more consistent driving the ball and scoring touchdowns when we get in the red zone. When we have to settle for a field goal and take 3 points, I think it really hurts our opportunity to win the game. We've got to come up with some of the third down and fourth down stops that could flip the game right there and give us that chance to go score on, get another possession and find a way to win the game. We've got to get some turnovers. We haven't had a turnover in a, as the young kids say, we haven't had a turnover in a minute. Whatever the heck that means. But my grandkids say it, it's been a minute. And I'm like, a minute? Feels like a year. We got to get some turnovers. Get some turnovers, we'll be a lot better.
You touched on it earlier, but you and Coach Durkin were on that same staff at A&M. Is there any particular advantage for either side when you have a situation like this where both of you are familiar?
I don't know if there's an advantage, and we've changed a lot from when I was at A&M, because there's certain things at A&M that quarterback-wise were different, and things you could do. So we're a little bit different. He's doing a lot of same things, but he adds to the pile each week. He's a very unique coach, and he has a really good system, and he does a good job of defending plays. So we've got to be on top of our game and really do a good job of our substitutions, our alignments, our tempo. I think it's up to us to be able to change up those things and put some pressure on how they call things.
And then offensively, you've been able to start the same five up front for every game. Just maybe how have you seen the cohesion of that unit progress from camp to now?
You're not supposed to say that. No, they've done a nice job. I think it starts with our center being able to understand the offense and know the calls and know how to make the calls and get it communicated. And they've done a nice job of working together, and they put a lot of pressure on each other. I think that's a great job with the offensive line, is they take a lot of pride in it, and when they make an error or make a mistake, they address it amongst themselves and try to work hard not to do that again.
Bobby Petrino there. Oops, let's see. It's a little bit. Okay, well, I'm little. There we are. There we go. I had to add it a little bit, kind of backdoor it, because the file was too big. I didn't realize it when I tried to upload it. They only let you upload a certain file size to StreamYard, so I had to kind of backdoor the way I got that video up there. All right, so let's take a little bit of a look at what Auburn has done so far. They all opened the season 38-24, big win at Baylor. That was a big one for them. 42-3 Ball State. A little bit of an unimpressive 31-15 against South Alabama. Then they lose at Oklahoma. They lose at Texas A&M. And this is a product, again, of them having to start their season against two. Oklahoma was 11th and Texas A&M was 9th at that point. Had to start their first two SEC games on the road. Auburn, Arkansas, and I think there was one other, were the teams this year that had their first two SEC games on the road. Might have been Vanderbilt. Did Vanderbilt have their first two on the road? At South Carolina, at Alabama. Sure did. And Vanderbilt has overcome that, but Arkansas and Auburn have not. It's a tough way to start your season, especially in this day and age when with the transfer portal and, you're trying to win over several of the players and let them, we're doing things the right way. We're doing things right. Trust us, believe us. And then lose. And they're like, let go of the rope. So anyway, they start off their season like that. And then they play Georgia. So they play 11 Oklahoma, 9 Texas A&M, and 10 Georgia. And then last weekend played number 16 Missouri. I believe all those teams, maybe except for Oklahoma, are ranked higher now. That's a tough start to the season. And they're not getting their doors blown off. 24-17 Oklahoma, 16-10 Texas A&M, the team Arkansas just played, 20-10 to Georgia, and 23-17 in double overtime against Missouri. 4 straight ranked teams, and now they have Arkansas. You know what everybody in Auburn's saying right now? We ought to get Arkansas. We ought to beat Arkansas. Everybody in Arkansas right now, we ought to beat Auburn. That's what everybody's saying right now on both sides. This is a very important game for Hugh Freeze. I mean, you look at Hugh Freeze's record right now, 6-7 that first year. They beat Arkansas 48-10, I think, that season, and then did not win a game the rest of the way. Last year, they went 5-7. Arkansas went down there and beat them. It was a very defensive game. This year they are 3-4. They are 0-4 in SEC play. He's definitely on the hot seat right now. And at a place like Auburn, and especially now with the change in the calendar, they'll certainly be looking at that. I have heard whispers from people that Sumrall at Tulane would be the guy that they would probably really try to target. Jackson Arnold right now, again, tailing the quarterback competition. I remember watching Jackson Arnold in high school. I was like, man, this guy is going to be special. And he's not been that good. 124 of 195, 1,190 yards, 63.6%, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception this season. Let's see. We're supposed to have Danny on here. In just a little bit, but he has not joined the chat just yet. Danny walks into the bar. There he is. Opens a beer. Okay, so remember when chat rooms were like that? Back in the early 2000s. Let's see. So, yeah, just looking at some of the stats for them. Jeremiah Cobb, 89 runs for 564 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jackson Arnold has 7 rushing touchdowns this year, 261 rushing yards. Got to watch Cam Coleman, an elite receiver for them, 30 catches, 413 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also Eric Singleton Jr., 36 catches, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really stout on defense overall. Now, if we look at let's look at them on offense real quick. 23.6 points per game. That's 13th in the SEC out of 16 teams. 15th in total offense, 335, only 335 yards a game. Arkansas, by the way, number 1 now, 513.7 yards per game. Number 1. Rushing offense, Auburn, 162 yards per game. That's 9th. Scoring defense, they're 6th at 17.9. Arkansas is dead last at 32.7. Total defense, Auburn is 8th, 316 yards per game. Passing defense, 14th, giving up 229 yards per game right now. Rushing defense, 4th, 87.14 yards per game. So, should be an interesting dynamic there. All right, I'm going to add Danny West to Danny is coming to us remotely. So, let's see. Why is that doing that? Oh, I need to do this. There we go. There we go. Everything's a little bit different. So Danny's coming to us remotely, so he's audio only today. Danny, how's it going? I got no audio from you, Danny. I want to tell you about our friends at Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go, you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. Reliable, consistent internet service, several different tiers. Gigabit, which is like 2,500, Gigabit Plus, which is 2,500 megabits per second, and Gigabit, which is 1,000 megabits per second. I think that's probably great for most families. I've never had an outage with them. I've never had to plug my router in and unplug it, none of that kind of stuff. Check out our friends at ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma. Trey Biddy stamp of approval. All right. See if I can get Danny on now. Ever since like the Amazon Web Services stuff went down, everything's been we have not, HawgSports has not even been up today on a Monday, which is a very busy traffic day. Hasn't even been up because of Amazon Web Services affecting the internet. You there, Danny?
Hey, buddy, you got me?
I got you. All right.
Sorry, it's just going to be crap, I guess.
That's what we get. That's what we get. Just a bunch of crap. So, Danny, what do you think of the game Saturday?
Bunch of crap.
Yeah.
No,
so Danny shows up at 11 something and parks early, and then we get the notification that that the game pays to park because he didn't pick up his parking, so he paid to park, and then finds out he's going to be sitting there for 5 hours.
Yeah, it's about 10:30 too, not 11. But who's counting? Anyway, yeah, that was a rough one, Biddy. That was a unique one, and a happy birthday to you, by the way. I got to say
Thanks.
that. I also want to say happy belated anniversary. That was Saturday, so I was kind of up against it a little bit anyway in that regard, but ended up we made the most of it, and here we are. But
yeah, well, happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. As far as the game, man, it was I'll tell you, Biddy, a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess, I probably would have sat here and told you Bobby really needs to get one of these first two in order to kind of stay alive and keep, momentum on his side, so to speak. Now I'm not so sure that's the case, man, because of how they've played, and it's he's got everybody intrigued. I can tell you that. So you talk about two field goal games. That's I know for a lot of people it comes down to, well, what's really different? Sam Pittman was doing that too there for a long time up until that Notre Dame game really got away from him.
Mhm.
There were plenty of close losses. There's no moral victory going on here, but I think people can, context matters. They can see behind the curtain a little bit, especially that first game he came out, only had one penalty. That flipped a little bit this past week, but there's also something to be said for just not being out of a game. A couple of times in this one, just like last week, it had an opportunity like 2 weeks ago when it became 34-17. We talked about it. It could have became 55-17 or 55-20. It didn't. In this past game, it could have came, they could have blown them out a couple of times. It could have got away from them. So I think that part of it, with the fact that this is a historically bad defense for Arkansas, I think people see that and they're going, man, what if? What if we put up the money and got him a defense? And what if KJ Jackson came back, or if he went out and got the next Taylon Green that he could find? What if? So I think that part of it has kept him alive without getting one of these first two wins.
What do you think, Danny? What would you do?
Whew. I think I would let these next few play out. And here's my thinking, Biddy. I don't think you can just go beat Auburn and Mississippi State and just hand them the keys to it. I think it's going to require you got to go up and beat one of those remaining, at least one of those remaining three. And the good news for him is there's three great opportunities because it is, three, so to speak, rivalry matchups there with LSU, Texas, and of course wrapping it up with Missouri. I feel like if he can get the two more winnable on paper, unranked opponents, Mississippi State and Auburn, throw in a third, get to 5-7 even. I know that's not as exciting on paper to look at, but man, you start to look around the country, all these jobs come open, and it just seems like if that's his path, it's probably the most realistic idea that he's going to be the next head coach.
Danny, I've got breaking news. We are back on HawgSports. Right. Amazon Web Services has had us down, has been affecting people globally today on the internet. We find out how reliant we are on the internet, but HawgSports is back up and running as of right now. So all of you who have been dying to get on HawgSports, which I know a lot of you are.
Dude, I've gotten so many messages today.
Yep. We're back. Danny, there's a lot of recruits at the game. How do you recruit right now, given all this?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'll tell you this. I've been impressed with some of these guys coming from out of state. I mean, you talk about Deontay Seals, perfect example, coming over from Alabama this past weekend. This is a 2027 kid, so, just a junior, don't get too excited type situation, but he's got a ton of SEC offers. There's no defensive staff, really in place to speak of. All due credit to Coach Wilson and what they're trying to do. How do you recruit? That's the question. And yet they've still got some of these guys showing up, still offering some new guys. I want to tell you about a brand new, to me anyway, new offensive line offer that went out yesterday from Eric Mateos, obviously, O-line coach. He offered David Connor. That's an easy name for me. David Connor we've got him listed as an interior guy, Trey. I think he's an offensive tackle, right tackle at the JUCO level. You'll have to forgive me. I don't have it right in front of me. I want to say it's Andrew College down in Florida, but he's got 2 years left. I want to say he started out at Florida, so he's a bounce back. 6'6", 315, 2 years left. One to keep an eye on. He did tell me, David messaged me back and told me he would keep me updated if he gets an official visit date locked in with Coach Mateos. So outside of that, man, you had some other guys show up this past weekend. Connor Rutherford, He's a kid out of Ohio, Chillicothe, Ohio. Trey, we've got one up here in Missouri too, so I've practiced that name quite a bit. Chillicothe, Ohio. That's a long way, and he was offered about 3 weeks ago from Mateos as well. So, how do they recruit? I think they just try to go about it as business as usual as possible, knowing that it's not really business as usual. You still gotta. You're recruiting to the university, not to yourself,
Yep. Danny West joining us. You can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X and read all of his content at HawgSports. Does most of our recruiting stuff, does a great job for us. Danny, right now, I'm going to hit you with a hypothetical because I just see a lot of these kind of comments and stuff.
Okay.
People say, like, go out and get John Gruden right now.
Uh-huh.
Right now, you have to make a decision between John Gruden and Bobby Petrino right now. Like you're Hunter Yurachek, and it's like the rubbers met the road, and you got to do it right now. What are you doing?
I'm probably sticking with Bobby.
I am too.
Yep.
I am too. I don't think there's any question.
I'm backing the truck up either way. That's what's required.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
All right.
See you,
all right, everybody. That's Danny West. You can follow him at Danny West. What do you say? Why do I feel like Trey is looking into my soul when he does the Walker Brothers ad? I am looking. So I've got a teleprompter here, and it was doing a little weird something, and I was having a hard time seeing the words. So that's why I was looking through your soul on that. But we're up and running on the teleprompter, and that's why I'm going to bring you this from our friends at Blakeman's, because Blakeman's Fine Jewelry is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks and are thrilled to support the team, and that includes providing beautifully crafted pieces for the U of A homecoming court. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. Visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas, 72758. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, where Arkansas gets engaged. If you have not checked out the store in Rogers, there is not a finer jewelry store, maybe in the country. There's not a nicer one in the country. It is exceptional. And like with Walker Brothers at Blakeman's, I know a lot of the people up there, a lot of them, and just such good people. And that's important for me, and I think a lot of you, to know that you're dealing with good, honest, hardworking people from this area. So that's what you get at Blakeman's. All right, let's go to my man Connor Goodson. Connor, how's it going, brother?
What's up, Trey? Can't complain now that we're finally back up and running. It's been a weird Monday, I guess.
It's been a super weird Monday. Right when I got on the site, I think I logged in at like 7:30 or something. I was like, oh, the site's not working. Well, took my daughter to school, came back, site's still not working. And then saw that Amazon Web Services stuff, all those issues. But anyway, we're back on business now, and Arkansas got basketball on Friday against who is Southern?
Cincinnati. Cincinnati's coming to town.
Cincinnati, yep.
Yeah, Cincinnati's coming to town. They just went to Ann Arbor and knocked off number 7 Michigan in a scrimmage or a exhibition game. I believe that was on Friday, I believe it was Friday night. Beat them 100-98. Shauna Baev is a guy that Arkansas recruited, hosted on a visit as part of the 2025 recruiting class. Opted to go to Cincinnati, 6'8" wing. One of the better players in the class. I really liked his game, but he was one of 6 Bearcats that had double-digit scoring for them, and looked like a really, really solid squad. And I think that Arkansas could have their hands full on Friday as they kind of work out some of the issues and kind of get into that first real game setting against competition.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mentioned Southern. That's the season opener, but it's interesting that the exhibition opener is just way more exciting. I can remember when Arkansas would have exhibition games against like semi-pro, like people nobody has ever heard of before. But to have Cincinnati and Memphis, I think that's pretty cool. Cincinnati started off really strong last season, but they really struggled down the stretch.
Yeah, they. I think it's interesting. Wes Miller's in, I believe, his coming up on his 5th year with the Bearcats, and he's yet to take them to an NCAA tournament. And this is kind of a really make or break year for them. Went out and I think he assembled probably what is the best roster that he's had since he's been there, and one that I think is poised to really do some damage. And you look at Michigan's roster, who they just went and beat. I know it's an exhibition game, and you're playing more guys. Your rotations aren't as short, and you're just kind of trying to get a feel for what different guys can do. But that Michigan team, I love their roster, and I think that they could be a really big time contender as long as they can stay healthy and do some things. So they went in there, took it to them, and I have no doubts that Cincinnati's going to be able to come in and shake Arkansas a little bit, especially if you see some of the slow starts and guys just kind of, going through the motions and taking it light. But another thing, if they do end up, losing this game to Cincinnati, it's an exhibition. It doesn't matter. I mean, the result, what you take away and what happens in between does kind of matter from seeing different things from different guys. But ultimately, it doesn't count on your resume. Nobody's going to hold it against you in March. So you're seeing a lot of these bigger teams, I think, that can really be serious contenders. They're slipping a little bit in exhibition season. So, but with these exhibition games, like I said, it doesn't matter. You can take some red flags, but it's not like panic button time. Just let them kind of work through some of the kinks and get things straightened out and see where this goes, a month from now.
Yeah, Arkansas beat Kansas last year, right? In the exhibition, yeah. And then what did Arkansas went and lost their first 6 in SEC play? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think Kansas was outrageous last year, were they? I mean,
no, they were. I mean, they came into the season. I think they were ranked number 1 preseason, or they were up there, one of the top ranked teams. But they didn't really light the world on fire. They lost a handful of non-conference games, and then kind of just middle of the road Big 12 team last year, which Big 12 is a really good basketball conference, but definitely not the best team that Bill Self has had there. And then you look at the year before that, Purdue comes to Bud Walton. Arkansas beats them in overtime. One of the bigger wins. I mean, that felt like a premier atmosphere in Bud Walton that year. And then you look, Arkansas doesn't even finish over 500. So these exhibition games, they can be a little tricky if you really try to put a lot of stock into it. But it's just more get guys acclimated, kind of see what you're working with different guys. And a lot of the coaches aren't running a ton of they're not running a lot of their sets. They're just basic vanilla stuff that you want to just kind of see what these guys can do and see what you got. And I think that we'll see a lot of that Friday night, and then again Monday, kind of a quick turnaround. But it should be fun to finally get into Bud and see this team in a really competitive setting against someone other than themselves. But I can't take a lot of stock of regardless of what happens, whether it's a win or a loss. Looking
forward to that too. Bobby Petrino versus the field to be head coach at Arkansas.
Man, I think I'm still kind of in the I'm on the team that kind of just wants to see how these next 7, I guess, games play out, or however many games are left, 7 weeks, I guess. But I don't think he's done enough to really say that you can definitively say, okay, well, you got to give him the job. But as we see this weekend, a lot of premier jobs are coming open. A lot more could follow. And as Arkansas kind of gets knocked down those lists of like attractive gigs, at some point, Bobby Petrino is the most attractive option. And man, Trey, I don't know about you, but watching how competent the offense is and just your trust in the offense compared to the season we watched Dan Enos and then that debacle. But then the year before that, when Kendall Briles was here, a lot of question marks like, what's going on? What are we doing? What is this? Like, what are some of these decisions? I feel like you don't get that with Bobby, and there's a sense of like comfort almost in that. And that whether he's the head man, whether he's the a coordinator, you have that kind of faith that the offense isn't going to look just terrible for long. Obviously there's going to be different issues, but part of me is like, well, if he doesn't get the head job, give him a lifetime offensive coordinator contract, because, man, that offense, especially Saturday, it was so fun to watch. And even the times that they messed up, you can't really blame Bobby. I mean,
it's a hell of a job you're doing filibustering here in your 10-minute segment, because your time's running out. But that wasn't the question you were asked.
Sorry.
Y'all hear this filibustering?
Should I go into politics? Yeah, I've been asked that question so much, and it's like, should we just hire
Petrino or the field?
I say give me the field right now, but it's a lot closer.
Yeah,
I think it's close.
I agree with you, though. I do think that he's going to have to win some games. We can't just be like, well, the offense looks really good, but man, they keep losing and losing and losing, because once you're sitting in it and stewing in it, I mean, and Arkansas is 2-8, 2-10, like, that is what it is. Like, you can't make that higher at that point.
Yeah, he's got to win games. And, if he rattles off these next 2 games, which, like Danny said, you're going to be favored on paper. And if you can pick those off and then you look really competitive, maybe pick another one off, I think 3 wins. Yeah, I think that would be, if they look impressive and don't have too many, just let go of the rope blowout type performances, I think that you can't really deny him at that point. But, there is something to be said about just wanting to completely start over too. And
I hear that. I get that aspect of it too. I do think you could do a lot worse than Bobby Petrino, or think that you're doing. I mean, like, hiring the unknown sometimes is scary. Like, Billy Napier was a really hot named coach. Florida wasn't doing absolute backflips, because I think a lot of Florida fans wanted Brian Kelly, and that's kind of where we thought things were going. And LSU fans really wanted Billy Napier, So, you just never know how things are going to work out. Like with Sam Pittman, everything just kind of worked so badly against him, because he's supposed to be this really strong recruiter. And, well, you know what? We're going to minimize the impact of recruiting, and we're going to have this huge transfer portal thing. And, he opened things up with the COVID year. So, like, first, right out of the gate, well, you can't get out on the road and recruit. Sorry, you're not going to be able to recruit. It just seemed like the game that he was hired to coach turned into a completely different game. I actually think the landscape of college football now, where it's so much more about business and, NIL support and revenue sharing stuff, I think that probably benefits a guy like Bobby Petrino more.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, and I think you can kind of see that, as much as he's told us he doesn't want to deal with the NIL and stuff, I think you can see he probably likes that a little bit more than it's just strictly relationship building with high school recruits and their families. I think that, there's something to be said with that for sure. And, I was on here a few weeks ago after Pittman was ultimately fired. If things kept going for about 10 years without the introduction of all those things that change, we're probably having a completely different conversation around Pittman and the Arkansas job, because I think that he probably would have had a lot more success if it was by that old school type of, recruiting, building through the high school ranks and that type of stuff. Yeah. And
we still would be complaining about some of the game day decisions.
oh yeah, for sure. But it's probably not nearly, we're probably not exactly here. I feel like, but it was a combination of a lot of things, but there's just something to be said, like I said earlier, just the different decisions and stuff, and how good the offense is. It's like, it's hard not to kind of entertain some of those thoughts of, well, what if he was able to get hire his whole defensive staff? What if he was able to get an off season to kind of build a defense? What would that look like? There's something to be said about that too.
Yeah. Well, I'm envious of you, Connor, because you're the lead beat guy for the basketball program, and it feels like it's going to be such a special year, And when I was doing basketball, back in the day, I used to cover everything, but when I was doing basketball, it was just like, I had the Pelfrey years, and I had Stan Heath, and John Pelfrey, and Mike Anderson. Just, I don't know, it's just a different era. Exciting time to cover that beat.
Really excited to get into Bud Walton and kind of get into the groove of the season and that kind of grind. But it's going to be a really fun. It's going to be a roller coaster, no doubt about that. But it's going to be fun, and it should be fun in March and April too.
Yep. All right, Connor, appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody, that's Connor Goodson. Go follow him at Connor Goodson on X, and does a great job for us as always. A lot of good insight from Connor Goodson. Okay. I've just posted a deal for questions on the Razor's Edge Premium Forum, which is our VIP message board. And we're going to get on there and see if we got any questions that built up in that short amount of time that we have been online. Okay. Yeah, we got a few questions on here. Hogtalica says, can you explain in more detail the decisions not to use the timeouts? Yeah, I talked about that on part of the show. I just think that if you use those timeouts, you're down to, a minute 44 or whatever. You start using those timeouts, then you have no choice but to onside and recover the onside. I think they were going to onside anyway, but at that point, like you onside, you don't get it. You still have a chance to stop them. And with timeouts, so I think that's what it came down to. And then it just got down to a point where there was so little time left. It's like, all right, we really don't have any choice but to start calling timeouts and hope that we get the onside because that's the only chance. So I think that's what it was, because once they get the ball, you have to have those timeouts in your pocket or they're going to take it way down. Get him a defense. He will upgrade the defensive personnel. Trey Flowers, Darius Philon, Chris Smith, and Dietrich Wise were all Petrino recruits. We were going back. I was on with DJ and Justin today on the Zone, and we were talking about Arkansas back then under Petrino, and people would complain about Willie Robinson. And you go back and look at some of those scores, by the defense, let's see. Let's look at 2010 as an example. That was probably his best team, even though the other team won 11 games. 10 was probably that was the breakthrough year. They held Georgia to 24 points. That was Georgia with a freshman quarterback. Held Alabama to 24 points. Texas A&M to 17. Auburn with Cam Newton gave them fits. They gave up 65 in that one. That was a 65-43 shootout game. Ole Miss only scored 24. Vanderbilt 14. South Carolina 20. You take these numbers, huh? 2 overtimes against Mississippi State, and they put up 31. LSU held them to 23. I mean, I would take that compared to what they've been doing lately on defense. And remember, we were just killing Willie Robinson. Willie Robinson's terrible defense. Willie Robinson this and that. I'm looking at the scores from 2011. Tennessee had 7. Mississippi State had 17. 28 for South Carolina. 28 for Vanderbilt. 24 for Ole Miss. 14 for Auburn. I'd take that. I would take it. Kendall Breyer says if BP wins a lot of these winnable games left, Arkansas, by the way, is plus 1.5 on Bet Saracen. I need to look at that real quick before we finish up these questions, but look back at how we did last week. I actually picked 6 games last week because I can't count. And last week we finished 4-2 on our picks. That puts us at 24, 15, and 2 overall. And we're 5-2 now picking Arkansas games. If you don't have the Bet Saracen app, you need to go get it. It's Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. It's a great place to place your wagers. Put a little money on the game, have some fun, make them a little bit more interesting. So we picked our Week 7 picks. I actually went against the grain because so many people were picking Vanderbilt. Feel good story, whatever. And I was just like, I'm going to go the other way. Even though I felt like Vanderbilt had the better quarterback. Felt like, both of them had pretty good defenses, but Vanderbilt won 31-27 and I lost it. I had LSU plus 2.5. Tennessee, Alabama. I had Alabama at -8, and Alabama won 37-20. We won that one. I had Texas beating Kentucky at Kentucky. That was a pretty ballsy one because winning on the road against anybody by 12.5, that's a lot of points. But I just thought Kentucky might have let go of the rope, but Texas had a pretty big letdown after the Oklahoma game. Texas won 16-13 in that one, so we took an L on that bet. I had Oklahoma beating South Carolina. That was at -5.5. and Oklahoma won 26-7. We won that one. I had Georgia beating Ole Miss. Georgia was -7.5, and Georgia won by 8. So we barely won that one, but we won it 43-35 in that one. And then I had Arkansas at +7 against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M won 45-42. So we won that one. So we are, again, 24-15-2 overall, and 5-2 picking Arkansas games. Okay, back to your questions. After these messages.
What can you say about Super Sid? He's one of Arkansas's all-time greats and still cares about the little guy.
What I like the most about Bet Saracen is the ability to make bets during the game.
How about this special offer from Bet Saracen?
Brand new players get a 100% profit boost just for downloading the Bet Saracen app.
I always played Bet Saracen out on the trail.
This is from Kendall Briers. You said that Rocky Top was SEC. Do you think Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium is SEC or a bit too small? No, I think it is. The thing that's different about Fayetteville versus some other places, like Tennessee is a very vertical stadium, but it's so big, it's such a big stadium, but it's very vertical. But a lot of these stadiums are just kind of laid out more. They're a little bit more like this. And some places like Oxford, for example, Oxford, the stands are so high, like they start, like you have to like jump, like Fayetteville, I can hop over that fence. In Knoxville, they're pretty high, but that kind of makes it a little bit different. I don't know. It's just kind of a different sense because the first row is so high up. But no, Arkansas is the only thing about Fayetteville that bugs me a little bit is that gap. It grinds on me a little bit from a symmetry standpoint to see just that big open gap. I just think it was, why did they do that? Like, so they can so you can see the view coming down from Maple Street. Give me a break. I'm not a fan of it. But aside from that, Fayetteville, like, especially when they had some camera angles and you're looking at the south end zone, that's beautiful. And the way the light comes off the glass, I just think it's a really pretty stadium, especially from that angle. But no, it's absolutely SEC. I mean, it's 76,000. I think it's 76,212 is the official. That's a good size stadium, especially when you consider around the country. What is it? It's a top 25 size stadium. What are the largest college football stadiums? Let's see. Here we go. This is from 2025. So, what, are you going to give me a top 10 here? And that's it? Sorry. Why would you do that? That's just a clicky article. That's just like, click this. We're going to make something easy. All right. So this one doesn't have a list. It just has the names, but there's Razorback Stadium. So Razorback Stadium this is all stadiums. Do I need to write this article? Do I need to do this research and write this article? All right, here we go. Arkansas is the 20th largest on-campus college football stadium. Michigan, Penn State. I'm not going to read all these. Let's go SEC. Texas A&M is number one at 102,000. LSU's just behind them, also 102,000. Tennessee's 101. Alabama's 101. Texas is 100. Georgia is 93. That's the top 9 right there. Florida is 11th at 88,000. Auburn is 88,000 at 12. Oklahoma is 83,000 at 14. South Carolina is 77,000 at 18, and Arkansas is 76,000 at 20th. And I'll say this about Arkansas too: there is more chairback seating at Arkansas than there are at other stadiums. Like, you take a stadium like Alabama, 101,000. If you put chairbacks in all those seats like they do at NFL stadiums, then we're talking about a 76,000 stadium. 76,000, 80,000 maybe if you put chairs in all those seats. So the fact that Arkansas, both end zones are chairback, that really reduces the amount of people that you would fit in those areas otherwise. Arkansas did, in my opinion, made a mistake when they were designing the stadium when they were renovating it. They put the nicest luxury seating and all that stuff in the south end zone. Well, the south end zone is the hardest place to sit because if you're playing a day game, you're just getting blasted by the sun, just staring into the sun the entire game. What they should have done is matched it up as close to possible as the south end zone, which the reason they did the south end zone first is because, you don't have the sun blasting you the whole time. What they should have done is matched it up to that end zone and then taken the stands on the west stands and where they have me sitting in the press area, which I love my seat. It's a great spot. It's one of the best spots to watch a football game in the country, especially if you're media. But they probably should move us over to the corner and put luxury seating there and do some other kind of work and really make those seats right there, do something to make those as luxury as possible. That's what I would have done if it were me calling the shots. But they didn't do that. So, but yeah, that's what I would have matched up both end zones, made them look almost identical, and then spent the rest of the money building out, improving those suites, probably moving the press box. That's a lot from me saying that I would move me, but I would have. That's what I would have done if it was my job. Okay. Next question. Barkus Maximus says, Trey, with all these good jobs opening up, I'm worried someone else may make a great offer to Bobby if we wait until the end of the season. So the thing is, I think that I don't know that that's going to happen for sure. I think there are I don't know that there's like an SEC type program that's going to do that. Everybody in the SEC right now, you're either looking at a guy that is, like a Brian Kelly who's had a lot of success, who may be older, but he's had a ton of success, and he's still at a big job like Notre Dame. Like you might be looking at guys like that, or you're looking for the next 42-year-old hot shot up and coming coach. Those are the two things that I think you're looking at. So Bobby, I think, is coveted more by Arkansas fans because they remember a lot about what he's done. He is a really good coach when he has the right resources. He had a bad year his last year at Louisville, and they fired him. What did he do? I mean, his first few years at Louisville, when he was there before, let me see. When he was there before, they were not in the same level of conference that they are now. So, again, they were ACC. He had a Heisman Trophy winner. They went 9-4, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. That's not bad at Louisville. And then they went 2-8 and they fired him. They just tanked in 2018. Not sure what all happened there, but they tanked. Sometimes it doesn't take much. At Louisville before that, the 4 years he was there, he went 9-4. This is in Conference USA, mind you. 9-4 and 11-1. And then they entered the Big East, which at the time was a Power 5 type conference. And they went 9-3 and 12-1. Then he took the Atlanta Falcons job, left there, obviously hated it, came to Arkansas, 5-7 that first year, 8-5, 10-3, 11-2. And then obviously everything went downhill. 1 year at Western Kentucky, 8-4, then went back to Louisville and had success. Missouri State, I mean, he had more success there than that program is used to having, but then obviously left there and took the UNLV offensive coordinator job and then was offered the Texas A&M offensive coordinator job and left for Texas A&M. Octalica says, I hear a lot of people say Bobby can't coach defense, and his defenses were bad when he was the head coach. But he had a top 40, top 30 in 2010 and 11 with plenty of studs. They were not bad. They were not as bad as like we make them out to be on defense. Why do you think people misremember about the defense? I can remember like literally when it was going on. And I was talking about this in the media room today too. Like back when Houston Nutt was at Arkansas, somebody who, covers the team now, but wasn't around back then in 2006 and 2007 when all that stuff was going back poorly. And somebody was like, so what did they do in 2007? I was like, they went 8-4. And they're like, well, I feel like Arkansas fans would kill right now to go 8-4. I'm like, yeah, they probably would. But the state's never been more torn apart and more divided than it was then. Isn't that wild to think about how divided the state was? Central Arkansas versus Northwest Arkansas, Malzahn versus Nut, the Dark Huggers and the Nutsiders. What was it? Nut Huggers and the Darksiders. Yeah, those were the days, man. We eat our own sometimes, don't we? Hugh mentioned in his presser they will probably start Arnold and bring in the backup. Are we about to see a classic Arkansas versus backup, or does it cancel out because Auburn coach is on the hot seat? I don't know. I think we'll see Arnold. Coaches say that stuff sometimes. In your opinion, does Bobby still have to win 3 or 4 to get the job? He seems to be gaining a lot of momentum from the bait. I don't think I said he has to win 3 or 4. I said if he wins 5, then he's definitely the head coach. If he wins 4, then he's probably the head coach. I put it at like 80%. But I think he could still 3 would probably, based on what I see, the way people talk about it, and again, when you're going through the games and going through the losses and stuff, it's different. But the way that they're playing on offense and still fighting, and they're struggling on personnel on defense, but if I had to guess, I think I would take Bobby Petrino versus the field as being the next coach. But they got to win some games. They can't just not win any games. They can't just, have the 2 wins. It's not going to work out if that happens. But if they can beat Auburn, they can beat Mississippi State, and one more between Texas, LSU, and Missouri to get them at 3, that would do a lot. If he gets them to bowl it, if he wins 4, then there's no. I think that he's probably the coach, considering how they played those first. Now I made that comment before those 2 games, but Mississippi State and Auburn, if you can win those, and then one of those last 3, that would get you to 3. But if he won 4, that would obviously be it would be hard to deny. That would mean beating Missouri, beating Mississippi State, beating Auburn, and then beating either Texas or LSU on the road. That would be tough to deny him the position. All right, everybody, I want to thank our friends over at Crain Automotive. If you haven't checked out the crainteam.com, they have almost 6,000 vehicles available, both new and used, 16 locations in Arkansas. Check out our friends at Blakeman's. Now's the time to get engaged. If you haven't gotten engaged, now's the time to get engaged. If you're looking for fine menswear, just ready to start dressing like a grown-up, and get rid of your cargo shorts and your nasty tennis shoes, and start dressing like a grown-up, go to Walker Brothers. Check out what they have, man. They've got everything from suits to jeans to shoes to colognes to all kinds of other stuff that men like at Walker Brothers. Blakeman's, time to get engaged. Bet Saracen for all your betting needs, and Ozarks Go for your internet service, and you should be set. I think I've got you all set up. I think I've got you set up with clothes, with cars, with jewelry, with internet service, and with a way to wager. What else do you need? All right, everybody. Thanks, Connor Goodson. Thanks, Danny West as well. We're back with you guys on Thursday for the Primer Show. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.